evening. Welcome to another session of the Gooner Booth. We ain't done everything Arsenal podcast in a while, so I thought this is probably the perfect opportunity. Bit of Arsenal therapy is needed. Yeah, I think yesterday's game weren't great. I think we both had some more time to think about it. Yesterday was a bit more of a reaction. I think I'm a little bit calmer today. I wasn't happy yesterday. But looking around at the fan base, I think I'm not the only one. Not the only one.
Yeah.
So yeah, Wayne. Good evening. How you doing?
Yeah, good evening, son. Yeah, I've been to work. I've had over 24 hours to stew on the game. Firstly, as well, in regards to yesterday's video, I'll put my one and only apology to Mikel Arteta. I thought he took Madueke off for Saka and kept Trossard on, but it turns out obviously Madueke picked up a knee injury, which obviously we'll go into. I mean, I hope I've heard, and it's not an ACL, but some idiots on Twitter were trying to spread the false information that the club feared it was an ACL, which it wasn't. Tone. Just I mean, you got that 24 hours to stew over something, and then you get something like that. You build your team up. You fit yourself. Here we go. Like we've got Madueke, you got Saka, Eze, you got Trossard, Martinelli. You got options, and you look at the list of the people that's been injured, Tone, and you're just like, for crying out loud. Like, I'm grateful that we obviously still got to wait and find out, and I'm pretty sure we'll find out in his press conference tomorrow in regards to the Port Vale sort of like build up. But yeah, it's so frustrating, Tone. But anyway, listen, that's obviously a different thing. Obviously, the injuries are a pain in the backside. The game itself, again, someone said on like Twitter, and I was, as you know, you want someone to get out. Obviously I can't ring you. You're busy. You know what I mean? I ain't got a lot of Arsenal fans to let it all out, so I go onto Twitter to see what they're saying. And there's so many different sort of like attitude, different perceptions. Someone was saying, obviously, as well, which is the point I was getting at, with people saying, the way he's playing, the way Arteta's setting up is, and frustrating with the Moreno starting and stuff like that he's alienating a lot more fans. Like a lot more fans are kind of turning. I'm not turning, Tone. I'm frustrated, and I think you can't escape that feeling sort of frustration. I mean, we can go to Port Vale tomorrow. We could batter them because they're a League One, League Two side. You're not going to see anything of any change of what we want to expect in the big games or in Premier League games, Champions League games. Sorry. Yeah, it's a bit easy to digest 24 hours later, Tone. Still frustrating, dude. What is your feelings towards it, mate, as the day's gone on? And you've had time to sort of think about it.
Firstly, I think the Madueke thing, it's frustrating. The injury list is just piling up. And I'm starting to think just on that, is that luck, or are we mistrained? Are we not training the players properly? Are they doing too much? That's something that's got to be looked into, because I think it's nuts. Did he have many injuries for Chelsea? I don't remember him having many injuries for Chelsea. So that's one thing that I'm a little bit frustrated on. Yeah, I thought about yesterday, right? And a lot of people have been comparing us to Stoke, right? And I've actually been listening to quite a few things. I've been listening to a bit of TalkSport, a few of the fans from AFTV, all them lot. And it's been interesting to hear the different side of the coin. So I had one fan say, we're like Stoke. We're putting towels on the touchline. And I must admit, that's a very good point. That was something I did. Obviously, I noticed it, but I didn't think, wait a minute, why the fuck are we putting towels on the touchline? Going long throw, and it just proved my point from yesterday. We've gone into that game thinking we're going to nick a set piece and just get out of there, right? which is absolutely shocking from Arteta. You know, the lack of ambition to go and beat a City, and I agree with a lot of supporters. Probably is one of the worst City teams that we've seen in the last 10 years. Don't get me wrong, like players like Haaland, your Fodens, like that, they're good players, right, and they can hurt you on their day. But we should have been a lot bigger than that. We should have been a lot more ambitious. We should have gone at them. The biggest thing I've heard today from pundits, and I completely agree with Jamie Carragher. For once in my life, I've actually agreed with something Jamie Carragher said. Was
I know what you're
we
say.
wasted 45 minutes yesterday.
Yeah.
We wasted it, and I still don't understand. The one thing that I've been trying to think about, I still don't understand the starting 11. I don't understand the full process. I don't understand what he was going for. He was clearly going for defense. He was more worried about losing than he was winning, right?
Yeah.
And this is where he's got to start taking the handbrake off, because if you're going to win the league, you got to go for it. Liverpool haven't even got going yet. That's the worst thing about this whole thing. Liverpool haven't got going yet, and they're looking around going, bloody hell, they're dropping points. And they've won all their 5 games, and they've literally not got Isaac up to scratch. Don't get me wrong, they've got a brilliant side, but you can tell, Everton didn't play too bad against them. They give them a little bit of a fight in that game. Could have been easily 2-2. So they're getting a bit of luck, but soon they're gonna start stepping it up. The one thing positive that I will take, right? It's game week 5, right? And we've played Man United away. Yeah, all right, we've played 2 winnable games, Leeds at home, Forest at home. But we've played Man City at home, and we've also gone away to Liverpool in the space of 5 games. Now,
plus also, sorry, Tone, to add to that, we've got Newcastle away, dude, as well.
Yes.
That's your first 6 games, Tone. They're three of the hardest away.
Yeah. So when you actually, so when you take a step back and think about it, it's more of the lines of, all right, it's not what we wanted it to be, but then we've had one of the hardest run-ins in the top 6.
Yeah.
Can't say anyone has had a harder run-in than us, really. And as I said, it don't get any easier. Go away to Newcastle, but I think after that we have some winnable games. Start getting points back on the board. But this is where we can't drop points now. We've left ourselves in that fragile sort of way that we can't afford to draw against Palace at home or the Brightons at home, or we've got to win a huge percentage of our games now.
Yeah.
And the gap goes more than 6 points. I don't think we catch them. And that sounds really negative, and it's only game week 5, and I'm trying to go like relax. We've had a hard run in, but I feel like I need to go through the fixtures, and I will do this on another stream. I want to go through our fixtures versus Liverpool's up until Christmas, just to see where we stand and where do we think Liverpool are going to drop points. Because as it stands, I don't see where they're dropping points at the moment. They're that good. Yeah. But we should be right behind them. This is what's frustrating. That draw yesterday is more frustrating than the one at Anfield. Although the one at Anfield was frustrating because we didn't go for that either. We played safe. Why did we give City so much respect yesterday? I don't understand it. We've got a good team. We've got good signings. We should have frightened the life out of them yesterday, and I'm still bewildered why we're sitting here going, all right, we drew 1-0, but also some supporters are celebrating that. But then you got to look at it. So again, another fan said this, and I'm not going to take it as credit, right? And I completely agree with this. Arteta has given us back something, right? We can now get the ump at drawing 1-1 to Manchester City. Just think about that for a minute. How long has it been since we had the ump at drawing at Anfield, right? So you've got to look at Arteta in the sense of he's taken us to a level now where the expectations have gone up. So you give him credit for that. That we're generally come out state. Remember, under Wenger. Don't worry, I love Wenger. He's an Arsenal legend. He brought me some really good childhood memories. But we used to go away to Chelsea, Cities, and Anfield, and we'd literally be happy if you only lost 2-0. We can't. Oh, at least we didn't get battered like last time. So you've got to look at it in that sense. Go, look, we're elite level, that we're not accepting draws at home to City. So that's my positive spin from yesterday. If I was to take one, that the expectations are high. It's a mixture for me now in terms of whether I think he's the man to do it. That's my problem. As I said to you yesterday, and I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence with Arteta because I do think that he's done a good job in getting us to a certain level. For us to have them expectations, I hope he can get us over the line. Now, I hate saying this, but come Christmas, if we're 6-7 points off the top spot, then I don't think we win it. And then the question's going to be asked, and I've seen a few supporters asked to say this question, well, if we're not where we should be by Christmas, then maybe we change the manager then. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I get that frustration, mate. Honestly, I do. I think this is vitally important for several reasons. And like you made a point of when we previous video we said a League Cup, and I said if he won a League Cup, I'd still stay with him. And you obviously said, I think you have to look at that. I think that if it's not to happen, you have to let things happen, Tone. The problem that a lot of people don't see is that the Cronkies 100% trust Arteta. The problem is, and it's a valid argument. It's a valid argument with amongst Arsenal fans. A lot of them saying, "Have we reached that level? And is he going to take us to that level?" And I can give you, we can be here all night, really, dude. But for me, I think you have to see out the season. This is a season where it's vitally important. We've got to ignore the noise. You've got Wrighty who says a lot. He's backing Arsenal all the time, but they'll be on the overlap and this is important. They're constantly piling the pressure on Arteta. He's got the best team that he's had for a while when they're all fully fit. Yeah, he's not got them fully fit, and I think you have to be patient in that sense. And I think if it goes on and goes on, Liverpool, I don't think they've got the greatest defence. But their attacking will get them out of trouble a hell of a lot. So yeah, dude, I know what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I just think it's a case of if it's all going pear-shaped by say March and April, then okay, you have to kind of go, look, he's been given the tools. I don't think he can get any more. People also as well, which some made a valid point, and again, I think obviously, in terms of growing the channel and stuff, you go on Twitter and stuff like that, and we're more than happy to say someone on Twitter, and we will obviously say this is why I mention it, Tony. It's not a personal opinion, but someone brings it up, and I'd like to bring it into this discussion. That we've had 8 signings come in, yeah, and as fans like me and you, only fans in general, we've gone, we've plugged all the holes we needed to plug. Look, we've got two great back to 4. For me, the midfield, and I think you'll agree, the central midfield, I still think there's one missing there, personally, because I think Moreno is more of a cover for support striker. I think you could have obviously had a bit more, another midfield in there. That's for another day. But the point I'm getting at is we've added 8 players to that squad. And like someone said, he said, you've got to allow for the relationships to forge still. As much as because you look at it, when we signed Ozil, how many players that summer did we sign? We didn't sign a lot, did we?
No.
Your mate Yaya Sonogo, you mentioned, I think, in a previous one. Flamini come on a free. So yeah, Yaya Sonogo on a free, Flamini on a free, and we're all going, hang on a minute, what are we going to sign? And we pulled off the Ozil signing. Ozil, why I bring that up is because it was in isolation of that signing. He was a world-class player at the time, and for 3 seasons, he was a world-class playmaker for us. He slotted in that team and set up straight away. And you just see how he played, and you're like, this guy's a different level. You know, we've got 8 different players now, Tone, and I think, you know, you've got to allow for relationships, especially the way Arteta plays. His focus is on control, defensive control, and it's that attacking side. But there's also a lot of players that you have to bed in as well. Like Gyökeres, you think, you know, we're going, we want a number 9, you know. We need a number 9 to put the ball in the back of the net, but sometimes you have to forge that relationship, Tone. Do you know what I mean? So as much as he, you know, it's not always a quick fix, dude, is what I'm getting at. So yeah, it's I think we've got to let it, give it a couple of months. And as you say, I get what you're saying, but if it's looking bad by February, March, you got to go, this ain't going, you know, he's been given the tools. That's all I'm going to say on the matter, mate. I think he's been given the tools to deliver one of the big trophies, and I think he's got to.
Yeah,
personally.
You mentioned the number 9, Gyökeres. So
yeah,
there's a few debates going on. I don't know if you've seen one of the debates where he's only been brought in to play against the lower teams. He can't perform in the big games. Now, what's your take on that? And I'll give you my take on that.
Yeah, what I want to say as well, and I want to chuck a name to you, and I want to, because he's a supposed in the nose. Everyone was chucking that we should go for Sesko. Obviously, it was going with Isaac. Obviously, Isaac's a lot of money. So what we needed to do this summer, we couldn't afford. I'm not going to go retread that, but obviously your number 1 pick would have been Isaac. We couldn't afford him. Liverpool did, because they were selling Nunes to Saudi and got Saudi money. Whatever they do, whatever, you know, in my opinion, with the amount of money they've spent, they should win a quadruple. But that's a different matter. Why I'm mentioning that is Sesko was touted as a player that had he's got a higher ceiling than Gyökeres, and we should go for him. I think he would have struggled as much as he has at United with us, you know. And I think the debate is because it's Arsenal, Tony. And if you want my God's honest truth, is as I've mentioned in previous videos, that giving Arteta a number 9, if he can utilise him, and I still think obviously he's still doing that, he's still trying to work out the best way to play with him, is what people fear the most, because you're giving him a tool that it can finally finish what he's trying to do, if you know what I mean, you know. And I just think it's just everyone's lumping in tone. And I think at the end of the day, you know, this player has struggled, but he struggled away at United, away at Liverpool, and a game against Man City where his manager laid out 3 central midfielders for him and did not set him up tactically to get the best out of him, which I've said yesterday. I'm not going to retread what I'm saying, Tone, but you know, I'm just saying that guy's not had the easiest of times, bar Leeds and Nottingham Forest. He hasn't had the best of times in terms of starting for a new signing. You telling me that Sesko would have done better than Gyökeres in that?
No chance.
With them games? No. So listen, people saying that and debating about that, Tone, I'm sorry, but all right, Ekitike, you could argue, because he's done quite well for Liverpool, but I just think if you're talking a debate and you're going, all right, well, he's overpriced. We would need to hit, because Bert was talking about hitting us 55, 60 million, you know, like the Eza deal, and obviously Gyökeres is 63. He wanted to hit that level, Tone. He didn't want to go higher than that level. You know, Eza pushed the boat out a little bit, but it went over a little bit more. He had a certain price range he was going for, you know, and Gyökeres fit that. But I also think that he's not he's not a flat track bully. He's a guy that can score goals. He just needs the right system, and Arteta he's still learning on the job because he's played midfielders as forwards for the last 2 years. You know, so yeah, it's a silly debate, Tone. Honest to God, mate, it really is, and I just hope, and I think he will. But I want to put one thing out there and pass it straight back to you because I've been going on about it for a while. But I want to say to you now, and I'll say to anyone out there watching, if he hasn't got a 1 in 2 strike rate at the end of by the end of the new year, January, February, and he's like, say he's played 30 games and he's hit 15 goals, he to me is going to be a 1 out of 2 striker. He won't have the crazy numbers like Haaland, but look what he's got now. He's got 3 and 6. You know, these people who are having this debate about him, come back to us in January, February time, and if that guy hasn't been hitting a 1 in 2 strike rate, then we'll start having to have a proper chat, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll go back to Ali McCoist, right?
Ali McCoist. That's mine, Tony. Over to you.
Yeah, your internet connection's a bit messed up there, Wayne.
I think both, dude. Honestly, I think it's been quite rough. It's a bit of a rough one today, mate. This internet. We're not having a good time with this internet at the moment.
I don't know when to speak.
No, I know. I don't want to talk over you. I apologise. We've got to sort it out. But go on, mate. Get your point across. Go on.
Cool. No, I was going to say that Ali McCoist made a very good point this morning. It was on with Richard Keys this morning. Really good show on TalkSport in the morning. I'd recommend it to anyone. Where sort of there was debating the tactics, right? And they sort of agree with what the supporters are saying. You know, a bit of a shock. But Ali McCoist has literally said to the pundits, I can't remember who was on it. It was an Arsenal. It was an Arsenal fan. And he sort of said, look, it's Ali McCoist, by the way. He said, we need to all calm down. It's game week 5. Arsenal had a really difficult run-in. They've gone away to Anfield. They're home to City. You know, they've got a Newcastle away next week. You know, they're going to have a moment where they're going to have 10 straight games that are all going to be winnable against middle table teams.
Yeah.
So, and he sort of said, look, all the Arsenals need to calm down. Just calm down. It's match week 5, and everyone's slating Arteta and all that stuff. But it's hot. I get his point. I do get his point. But my point is, what you're losing the supporters. You're making supporters think that you don't know what you're doing when you're making them sort of decisions. Like, why would you start Mourinho in midfield in a game that you know you've got that? It's a big game. You got to win it. And even now, I'm sitting here, and I said at the beginning of the podcast, I still don't understand the lineup. I don't understand why he's gone with Mourinho, Trossard on the left. I don't get it. You spent all that money. You brought in Eze, right? Who, all right, he weren't great against Bilbao, but he had an opportunity to play him in his best position, which is attacking midfield. Go out there and give them something to think about. We didn't give them anything to think about because we sat 3 guys in defensive midfield. 3 guys. Even Rice didn't get forward. When did Rice get forward yesterday? When did he drive forward? Them driving runs that he'd done. Didn't see him do one driving run. You know, it was very safe.
No.
Best way to describe it, it was very safe, very cautious. And where did that get us? Got us absolutely nowhere because their goal, you know, again, dwelling on the ball, doing stupid things, going from left to right, right to left, back to left to right, back to our defence, back round to the right. But it was the same shit the whole game. And literally, me and you aren't professional coaches or anything. But if you're playing against Arteta, there's a blueprint now to play against Arsenal, and that is 2 banks of 4. You watch Newcastle. I won't be surprised. They're at home. Watch them sit in and go, we'll get them on the counter attack.
Yeah, I do. I know.
They'll just play around us. They'll just play around us for about 20 minutes with the ball. And then this shift. If I was a manager, I'd play 4-4-2 against Arteta. I'd have 2 banks of 4 and then my 2 strikers on the break. He's too predictable. It's getting a bit stale. He's getting to the stage of Wenger at the end of his days where he wasn't adapting to situations, very stubborn in his ways. And do you know what? Wenger had a right to do that because Wenger's won trophies for this club. He brought success to this club. He had a right to be stubborn, right? Because he wrote he changed football with how he started football, right? Arteta, excuse my French, but as an arrogant prick yesterday, after the game, he stood by that result and he said the words, right? And I turned the TV off when he said this because it pissed me off. We played better than the 5-1 result last year. Now, I don't know what kind of weed he's got in that changing room, but he must have had a couple of puffs on it before going to his conference because what the fuck is going through your brain to turn around and say, we smashed City last season, but we played better this year because we drew 1-1. And it's like, that's the arrogance of the guy that he can't. I think a lot of Arsenal supporters would have a lot of respect if when's that person that, do you know what, I fucked up in the first half. I had a different mindset of how I wanted to do tactically. Didn't work. That's why I changed it. A lot of our supporters would see that and go, "Do you know what? Fair enough. He's admitted his mistakes. Right, we weren't happy with it, but at least he's owned up and gone, I made a mistake." Yeah. And he didn't. He stood by the fucking fit. He stood by it and sort of said, well, yeah, we played really well. We played better than we did last season. City, we had 67% possession because City let us have 67% possession. They was quite happy to sit in because they knew fully well we wouldn't break them down. You know, and I actually admit that a lot of people are slating Guardiola for sitting in and moaning about the fixture pile up and that stuff. But again, he ain't going to get slated because he's earned the right. He's earned the right to have a shitty week and go, I'm going to go defensive, right? And it's the first time. I think I see a stat earlier was absolutely nuts. It's the first time I think Man City had lower than 30% possession in a game. First time under Guardiola's management of City. Now that tells you everything you need to know for yesterday. But he's earned his stripes. He's won a triple. He's won trophies. So he's not going to get the slack because a lot of people are going to go to him. Oh, do you know what? Oh, he's a genius. If he'd have won that 1-0, he'd have gone, he's a genius. We need to. He needs to let the handbrake off, right? I don't mean against Port Vale, right? We'll do the preview on that tomorrow night, but I don't mean against Port Vale, and I expect us to beat Port Vale, by the way. But if he beats Port Vale 5-0, I don't think we're going to go, it's back to normal. He's let the handbrake off. No. St James's Park is the place where I don't want to see Mourinho anywhere near that starting 11. No offense to the guy, good player, but I think he's a backup for Gyökeres right now. So you bring him on to replace Gyökeres. If Gyökeres has run his bollocks off for 60 minutes, you do that, right? You don't. I don't want to see that midfield. And Joe, what? I'll walk it onto it. Zubimendi. Now, from what I've seen so far, don't get you because it's got a cracking goal against Nottingham Forest. Good header as well. So 2 goals, brilliant, right? He's not giving us that same level that Partey did in that midfield. I think he's causing Rice to do more work. I don't think Rice trusts to go forward like he was when Partey was sitting there. Rice had that license to go forward. I don't think Rice trusts him. I don't know if you noticed. Yesterday was a massive game. Rice didn't venture forward as much as he should do. I don't think he trusts Zubimendi to cover him or to cover that, to be that holding midfielder and protecting that back four. I've seen him get roughed up quite a few times, by the way, and I'm going to keep saying it. He's got Torreira vibes for me, in the sense of can he handle the physicality of the Premier League? And so far, I'm going to be bluntly honest, not for me. Good player. I don't think he's an upgrade. I don't think he makes our midfield better. I generally think that that's an area that we need to look at, and I wouldn't be surprised that if he decides to put Rice back in that role, because I think Zubimendi struggled yesterday, and he's not going to struggle against the Nottingham Forest no offense to the Nottingham Forest or even Leeds, right? He's not going to struggle against them teams because they're going to let him have the ball. They're going to let him make, But as soon as he's got big players up against him, he was up against Rodri yesterday. Rodri won the battle. I didn't see a lot of Zubimendi yesterday to go, "Do you know what? He held his ground." I don't think he did. I think he got overrun. He got overrun. Like, when you look at the goal again, where was he for the goal? So I didn't see him. And each job is to be tracking them situations. When the ball was lost, right, and they got us in the counter. But that's why you got a defensive midfielder for them sort of regions to be there to, look at your Makaleles and your, go as far as Casado for Chelsea. They're in them positions. They're sweeping up. They're cleaning up. Even Rodri, he cleaned up quite a bit yesterday. He cleaned up. When Eze was there, he struggled a little bit when Eze was there, but he still was there. He blocked a lot of shots. He was there. Do you know what I mean? Did you see Zubimendi doing that? So, I think on to some news. I think so Madueke's injured. I think we briefly spoke about it. Lucky now Saka's back, but again, how frustrating is that? Now there's going to be. Now I'm hoping it's not long term. If it's a long term knee injury, then we've lost that depth, right? Because I would. It's mental how Madueke's switched all the supporters' brains into being like, "Do you know what? This guy's brilliant, right? Fair play to him because he's done that himself." I wouldn't be pissed off if I see Madueke on the left and Saka on the right coming on Newcastle. I mean, we're not going to see it because Madueke is injured. But yeah, I mean, in terms of Martinelli, do you think he's earned his place back?
I think he should have.
He should have started, definitely.
Started as well. I'll quickly refer. I think I'll quickly refer back as well. I think we need a bit more patience with Zubimendi. I know what you're saying. There was times though last season, in the back end of the season, where Partey just was not tracking back and he could not run. He was like he was running through quicksand. As I said to you, and I think I personally think in terms of Zubimendi, he is better to face play than he is to defend on the way back. He hasn't got that thing. Well, Declan Rice has got that recovery pace. I agree with you in that sense that the situations of the pitch sometimes demand he has to be there. I don't think Zubimendi should be the most deepest line of playmaker. He puts him there what they call a metronome. Against he plays the ball. He can control the situation. But I think Zubimendi is better facing play as opposed to being that. I'll die on that hill that I think Rice should play that, but that's another thing, Tone. But I think it's going back to your point you made with Madueke. It is. I wouldn't say in a Premier League game that he would, because I would like to have seen Madueke, Saka, and Eze behind Gyökeres. But I think come Port Vale, it's going to look easier. I don't think it will be. I think they'll be up for it. I don't think we will turn them over as much as we. It's just a Wednesday night. Could be a bit of a chilly one.
I'll say, yeah. Don't get me wrong.
Martinelli up front.
Yeah. Yeah. I would play him up front. If you're going to rest Gyökeres,
give Gyökeres shouldn't even travel. All right, shouldn't travel there. Give him the day off. He's up for the Newcastle. But he won't put Martinelli number 9. So he just won't. He's persisting with it, But I would argue. I'd argue if obviously Madueke will be out. I think it's been confirmed. So he's not going to be there at St James's Park. Martinelli would have to start for me in terms of, the fact that we haven't got another rush. I don't think Trossard should be, if Madueke's injured now, Trossard should be your impact sub. And I also think Moreno should be an impact sub. He's got to stop starting that guy as much as he does. I think, again, if you're going to look at anyone who might do well against the lower league as opposed to Gyökeres, will be, in my opinion, Moreno. Or in his ability as a backup number 9 could help you sometimes in a bigger game. But he's not the answer to have him as a support striker or as a central attacking midfielder. So he should be that impact player again. On that going slightly back again further, someone has also said that what they think, and again, you get a lot of Twitter tacticos and people that think they're the ones sort of to say every time, but they say the reason why Moreno started that game because he thought that Man City would go for it, so he'd have to have someone who's good at duels. You know what I mean? So he's thinking, I'm going to go I'm going to have a more of a defensive-minded player or someone who can challenge. And you think to yourself, sometimes, mate, just outsmart the thinker. You know what I mean? Like he has to be adaptable to that. And I think that game against Newcastle at St James's Park, Tone, will mean that. Again, I don't want. I think Martinelli is more of a central player, but I think as I said and alluded to at the back end of last night's video, I think it could work if Ødegaard's not fit. I think Ødegaard is fit. You have to start, and I think that'll be more so. You might go, Saka could start, Eze could be sort of like coming from the left, but I think Martinelli will play much better once he gets used to Gyökeres. That he could be sort of like he did in 22-23 with Gabby Jesus. He was brilliant. Jesus, he got injured, and I'm pretty sure his form kind of tailed off when it all paused for the World Cup, and we lost Gabby for 3 months, and we've hardly seen that Gabby since. Jesus is what I mean. But if he's got a striker that would drift slightly out to the left for him, that might allow him to take up them runs. Because he's one of the fastest players in our team, Tone. Whether we rate him or not, we will continue to say that at the moment, I will back any player that pulls that Arsenal shirt on. But Martinelli still, to me, has still got a lot more to prove and do it consistently for me, because he's done a fantastic goal, a fantastic assist from Eza. But Port Vale, get him on. And let's see if he scores more goals. But I think in terms of him working as a left winger, because we're going to need him now with Madueke out. I think it's obviously he's got to learn and build a good relationship with Gyökeres. That will determine how he will play and continue to play at left wing. And of course as well, I think you can also argue that with Trossard in certain games could get the nod. In the big games as well, there's times he just he disappears, Tone. And you just look at him sometimes and you go, he's just an impact sub in the Premier League for a team like us. But I think we should go for it. But again, I'd argue if Ødegaard's fit, I'd still keep him as an impact sub. Start Martinelli at Port Vale. Eza for me has got to start with Ødegaard, and if Saka's fit to start, Tone, go for that. You have to go for that formation against them. We can't, as you said as well, we can't fall further behind Liverpool at this stage of the season. We just can't.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
That's it. That's my 2 pence, Bones.
Well, I'm sure we'll get onto that this week. We'll leave it there. We've been doing some Arsenal therapy for nearly 40 minutes.
We needed it.
We definitely needed it, and I think the people watching probably would have needed it as well. But yeah, we appreciate you tuning in. Please like and subscribe. Again, the support's been amazing. We'll see you tomorrow for the Port Vale preview. Have a good evening, guys.